Look at what I am holding in my left hand. A thick, marbleized cut of beef. For decades, the system has conditioned you to believe that this is the only path to strength, the only way to secure protein your family needs to survive. Now look at my right hand. These are nothing more than dried, dusty leaves. If I told you these leaves contain more protein than that steak, you would call me a liar. You would say it is impossible. But that is exactly what they want you to think. The industrial food complex has spent billions on a narrative designed to keep you dependent on their crumbling supply chains and hormone-injected livestock. This is the first lesson of your shadow education. You have been systematically lied to about the very fuel of human life. While you struggle with rising prices at the butcher shop, a miracle is hiding in the shadows. This plant delivers 9 times the protein of yogurt. It contains 17 times the calcium of milk and 25 times the iron of spinach. We are talking about a biochemical masterpiece that renders the modern grocery store obsolete. It is a biological threat to big pharma and industrial agriculture. Every gram is independence. Every leaf is true resistance. You must choose. Focus. Now. But if a single plant can replace an entire pharmacy and a butcher shop, why is it missing from every grocery store in the West? The answer isn't a coincidence. It's a strategy. Silence is not an accident. In the world of high-stakes commodity trading and global food security, silence is a weapon. The villains of this story do not wear masks. They wear suits and sit in the boardrooms of Big AG and the monolithic agrochemical complexes that dictate what grows on this planet. To these entities, your independence is a direct threat to their quarterly profits. If you can grow your own survival in a backyard pot, they lose their leverage. This is why the history of this miracle plant has been systematically erased from your education. It wasn't just forgotten. It was buried under a mountain of propaganda promoting nutrient-void monocrops like corn and soy. The USDA and FDA regulations are not designed to optimize your health. They are designed to prioritize shelf-stable commodities that can be easily taxed, tracked, and controlled. These agencies have spent nearly a century building a world where you are forced to rely on their fractured supply chains for every calorie you consume. They want you dependent on a system that is currently buckling under its own weight. Look around. The trucks are slowing down. The shelves are thinning. While the general public waits for a rescue that isn't coming, the most potent solution for food sovereignty has been effectively banned through calculated neglect. They won't ban possession. They simply ensure you never hear its name or learn to cultivate its power. By hiding this botanical marvel, they ensure you stay tethered to their expensive, toxic alternatives. This is the art of strategic suppression. They are betting on your ignorance to maintain their dominance over the human race. They know that once you grasp the sheer scale of this biological independence, the walls of their empire begin to crumble. The clock is ticking on the global distribution network, and your window to secure this forbidden knowledge is closing fast. The system is failing, and your survival now depends on what they refuse to teach you today. To understand why they want this plant kept in the shadows, we first have to unmask what it actually is. The name they tried to scrub from your collective memory is Morina oleifera. It is known in some circles as the miracle tree, but I call it nature's rebellion. It is the ultimate biological insurgent, specifically engineered by evolution to thrive in environments where everything else withers and dies. While the industrial systems demand expensive fertilizers, constant irrigation, and chemical pesticides to produce a fraction of the nutrition, Morina thrives in silence. It grows in the poorest soil imaginable, resisting the most brutal droughts with a defiant persistence. For the survivalist botanist, this is the ultimate weapon of independence. You can plant it in secret, away from the prying eyes of those who wish to regulate your food supply. Within a single year, a tiny seed can explode into a 15-foot tower of concentrated life. It grows with such aggressive speed that it seems to be mocking the limitations of modern agriculture. This is the plant that refuses to die, making it an insurance policy that no government can cancel and no corporation can tax. It is the silent partner in your personal quest for sovereignty, standing as a green middle finger to the centralized control of our nutrition. In a world of engineered scarcity, Morina provides an abundance that borders on the criminal. It is a living contradiction to every lesson the system has taught you about how hard it is to feed yourself. This ancient, resilient tree does not ask for permission to save your life. It simply grows, fueled by its own internal drive to survive the collapse. It is the botanical equivalent of a fortified bunker, and it stands ready and waiting to be deployed by you. But the speed of its growth is nothing compared to the biochemical miracle happening inside its leaves right now. To understand the power of Morina, we must look beneath the surface at its internal structure. This is not just food. This is bioweaponized nutrition. While the average person consumes empty calories that leave them starving on a cellular level, Morina provides a full-spectrum molecular defense. Most plants are incomplete sources of protein, forcing you to combine different crops to get what you need. Morina is the exception that the system ignores. It contains all 9 essential amino acids: isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, tryptophan, valine, and histidine. This profile is a statistical anomaly in the botanical world. It provides the building blocks for muscle tissue repair and neurotransmitters in a single, unrefined source. This is the definition of cellular independence. But the protein is only the foundation. Morina is packed with isothiocyanates. These are potent compounds that trigger the body's natural detoxification pathways. In the world of suppressed natural medicine, these compounds are known to fight chronic inflammation and oxidative stress with more precision than any laboratory-created drug. Big Pharma relies on you believing that health only comes in a plastic bottle. But the data proves otherwise. Compare the bioavailability of this miracle plant to the synthetic vitamins sold in every drugstore. Those pills are often poorly absorbed, meaning you are literally flushing your money down the toilet. The human body was not designed to process isolated, lab-grown chemicals. It was designed to recognize and utilize complex, whole food structures. Moringa's nutrients are delivered in a form that your cells can immediately identify and use. The calcium in Morina is more accessible to your bones than the calcium in a fortified cereal. The vitamin A is more potent than a synthetic supplement. The system hides this because it thrives on your sickness. Chronic illness is a business model. A healthy, self-sufficient population is a marketplace that has vanished. They use control tactics to keep you focused on process labels while the real secret to health grows in the dirt. By mastering the chemistry of this tree, you bypass the entire medical-industrial complex. You are no longer a customer. You are a survivor. This is why researchers who delve too deep into these findings often find their funding cut or their papers buried in obscure journals. The truth about Moringa's biochemical profile is a direct threat to the dominance of synthetic medicine. Every leaf you consume is an act of rebellion against a system that profits from your depletion. This is not a theory. It is a measurable, scientific reality that has been scrubbed from public discourse to ensure you stay weak, tired, and profitable. It is the ultimate hedge against a future where laboratories dictate your vitality. You must understand that true power resides in the soil, not in the factory. The elites know this. They ensure you do not. This knowledge is your greatest asset. When you realize this plant can purify water and rebuild bone density, you start to see why it's a trillion-dollar threat. The reason Morina remains a suppressed secret isn't because it doesn't work, but because it works too well for a price that is effectively zero. In our current economic model, value is only assigned to what can be patented, packaged, and protected by intellectual property laws. You cannot patent a tree that grows wild in the tropics. This is the ultimate nightmare for the architects of control. Imagine a world where every citizen has a 5-in-1 superfood growing in their backyard. In this world, the multi-billion-dollar supplement industry collapses overnight. Why would you buy overpriced, synthetic multivitamins when a handful of leaves provides superior bioavailability? The dairy lobby, which has spent a century and billions in lobbying to convince you that cow's milk is the only source of calcium, would see its influence evaporate. The pharmaceutical giants, who profit from the chronic inflammation caused by our modern nutrient-void diet, would lose their most loyal customers. This is the heart of the food sovereignty war. The system is designed to create dependency. From the seeds that don't reproduce to the soil that requires chemical inputs, every aspect of modern agriculture is a leash. Morinah breaks that leash. It offers total independence from the global supermarket. This makes it a criminalized asset in the eyes of those who manage human consumption. They don't need to pass a law to make it illegal, if they can simply make it invisible. By keeping this miracle out of the public consciousness, they ensure the survival of their profit margins. They want you focused on the latest superfood craze that they can monetize, not the ancient survival tool that you can cultivate for free. This is shadow education at its peak. We are unmasking the fact that your hunger is their business model. Your weakness is their strength. If you possess the ability to nourish yourself and your family regardless of what happens to the stock market or the price of diesel, you are no longer a subject. You are a sovereign individual. They have spent decades building a fortress of regulations and marketing to prevent this realization. They know that once the knowledge of moringa's utility becomes mainstream, the walls of their artificial scarcity will begin to crumble. They have worked tirelessly to ensure this botanical powerhouse remains an obscure footnote in Western biology. This is institutional gatekeeping. But truth has a way of outgrowing the darkness they try to keep it in. We are reclaimers of life. We will no longer allow the corrupt institutions of man to dictate our destiny. They didn't just hide the seeds. They tried to delete the history of the cultures that used them to survive the unthinkable. Morinah is no new discovery. It is an ancient legend intentionally erased from the modern record. 3,000 years ago, the warriors of the Mauryan Empire in India were fed extracts of this tree. These soldiers were known as miracle warriors because they possessed a level of stamina and physical resilience that defied logic. They were the original elite force, fueled by a botanical secret that allowed them to conquer vast territories without the logistical burden of heavy rations. This history was once common knowledge in the East, yet it has been effectively deleted from Western textbooks. Why? Because the archives of human survival were rewritten to favor the architects of global trade. During the mid-20th century, as the industrial agricultural complex rose to power, Western science was tasked with a specific mission: protect the domestic soy and corn markets at all costs. These two crops are the twin pillars of global control. If a perennial tree like Morinah, which requires zero chemical inputs, was recognized for its superior profile, the entire corn subsidy infrastructure would have faced a catastrophic threat. So, the findings were suppressed. They were relegated to the realm of folklore and dismissed as primitive medicine. Meanwhile, in modern-day off-grid zones and famine-stricken regions, Morinah remains the only reason many populations still exist. While humanitarian agencies ship highly processed, synthetic nutrient pastes across the globe, the locals know the truth. They know that a single tree in the center of a village provides more security than 1,000 crates of industrial rations. This global context is hidden from you to ensure you remain dependent on the system for your next meal. You were never meant to know that the ancestors of humanity survived the most brutal collapses in history by leaning on this specific species. The information was erased to strip you of your ancestral independence. They wanted a population that believed nutrition only came from a supermarket shelf or a government-approved laboratory. By disconnecting you from this historical lineage of survival, they turned you into a consumer instead of a steward of your own life. We are now uncovering what was meant to stay buried in the dust of history. The evidence of its power is undeniable and its track record is thousands of years long. The history is clear. Now, you need to know how to grow your own insurance policy before the regulations finally tighten. Growing your own security requires more than a green thumb. It requires the mind of a tactical strategist. The system hates self-sufficiency, which is why your first objective is to grow your Morinah discreetly. In an era where local ordinances and HOAs act as the frontline enforcement for the food control establishment, you cannot afford to have a backyard that screams independence. Fortunately, Morinah is a master of disguise. By using the secret technique of heavy pollarding, you can prune this 15-foot giant into a compact, bushy ornamental shrub. To the untrained eye of a code enforcement officer or a nosy neighbor, it looks like a common hedge. To you, it is a living pharmacy. This is guerrilla gardening at its most effective. You can plant these seeds in neglected urban lots or tucked away in the corners of public parks, spaces the system has forgotten. They will thrive on neglect. Now, Let's talk about the forbidden techniques for harvesting to ensure you extract every ounce of power from this miracle. Do not wait for the tree to reach full maturity. Harvest the young leaves every few weeks. This forces the plant to concentrate its biochemical molecular defense in the new growth, increasing the protein density. For those looking for long-term survival, the seed pods or drumsticks are your primary target. When eaten green, they provide a massive infusion of minerals. But if you allow them to dry on the branch, the seeds inside become your most valuable secret. These seeds contain high-quality oils that never go rancid, providing a source of healthy fats that are impossible to find in a collapse. Furthermore, these seeds are the key to water purification, a skill the authorities would rather you didn't possess. You must learn to harvest, dry, and powder the leaves in the shade to preserve the delicate vitamins from UV degradation. This powdered form is your ultimate portable ration. It is lightweight, nutrient-dense, and completely untraceable by those who want to monitor your consumption. By mastering these cultivation secrets, you are building a fortress of health that exists outside their grid. You are no longer waiting for permission to eat. You are taking it. This is how you win the war for survival. In some jurisdictions, self-sufficiency is treated as illegal. But gardening isn't just about food. In a total collapse, this plant becomes your most valuable strategic asset. In a true SHTF scenario, the primary killer isn't starvation. It is contaminated water. This is where the suppressed tactical utility of Morina becomes your most valuable secret. The system wants you to believe that without industrial chlorine or expensive filters, you are doomed. But they are lying. The crushed seeds of the Morina tree contain positively charged proteins that act as a natural coagulant. When added to turbid, bacteria-ridden water, they bind to silt and pathogens, dragging them to the bottom and leaving the liquid clear and life-saving. This is a miracle of biological engineering that requires no electricity and no supply chain. Beyond hydration, this tree is the ultimate insurance policy for a failing civilization. Its wood provides a high-heat fuel source for cooking in a grid-down world, and its leaf mulch acts as a potent natural fertilizer. By using Morina to feed your soil, you can boost the yield of other forbidden crops without ever touching a bag of toxic chemical nitrogen. You are creating a closed-loop system of survival that the authorities cannot track, control, or tax. While the masses panic during the next manufactured crisis, you will have an entirely renewable source of protein, clean water, and energy. This is not just a plant. It is a strategic asset designed to keep you alive when the systems of man inevitably crumble. It is the silent, absolute guardian of your complete food sovereignty. The system is betting that you'll stay distracted. It's time to prove them wrong. They don't want you to have this. They want this video deleted. This is your chance to break the cycle of dependency. Every person who knows the secret is a threat to their total control. Don't just watch. Download this video before it's suppressed. Share this forbidden truth with those you trust. Join the growing underground of rebels committed to total food sovereignty. Subscribe to this channel to gain more shadow education they try to hide. The time for compliance is over. The era of independence starts right now. Become the change. Resist. Stay free, stay fed, and stay hidden.